Hello, and welcome back to Daily English Talk. I'm Emily, and today I want to talk about something very simple but very important: introducing yourself in English. This is something everyone does, but many learners feel nervous about it. They think too much. They worry about mistakes. They forget words. And because of that, a very simple moment suddenly feels stressful. I want you to imagine a normal situation. Nothing special. You meet someone new. Maybe at work, maybe in class, maybe a friend introduces you to someone. The other person smiles and says, "Hi," and now it's your turn. This moment is very short, but for many learners, it feels very big. In real life, introductions are not perfect. Native speakers don't give long speeches about themselves. They don't plan every word. Most introductions are simple, relaxed, and sometimes a little awkward. And that's completely normal. When I introduce myself, I don't say the same thing every time. It depends on the situation, on the place, and on how I feel. Sometimes I'm confident, sometimes I'm tired, sometimes I just want to be polite and move on. And English allows all of that. Let's start with the most basic thing: your name. When people introduce themselves in English, they usually say, "Hi, I'm Emily," or "Hello, my name is Emily." Both are correct. "Hi, I'm" is more casual. "Hello, my name is" is a bit more formal, but in daily life, "I'm" is much more common. When I say my name, I don't think about grammar. I just say it. And that's something learners sometimes forget. You don't need to think about rules in your head. You already know your name. You just need to say it. After your name, there is often a short pause. The other person might say their name, or they might say, "Nice to meet you," and you can answer, "Nice to meet you too." This phrase is very common. People say it even if they don't feel anything special. It's polite. It's automatic. It's part of everyday English. Sometimes introductions stop there. And that's okay. Not every introduction needs more information. But often, people add one small detail. Not everything. Just one thing. For example, you might say where you're from. "I'm from Spain." "I'm from Brazil." "I'm from Poland." This is very common. And if you live somewhere else now, you can say, "I'm from Italy, but I live in Germany now." You don't need to explain your whole life story. Just one sentence is enough. When I introduce myself, I often choose the easiest thing to say in that moment. If I'm tired, I keep it short. If I feel comfortable, I might say more. And this is important to understand. Confidence doesn't mean saying a lot. Confidence means feeling okay with saying a little. Many learners think they need to sound interesting. But in real life, people don't expect you to be interesting right away. They expect you to be normal, friendly, polite, that's all. Sometimes, after you say your name and where you're from, the other person asks a simple question. "What do you do?" This is a very common question in English-speaking countries. And many learners feel stressed about it. They think they need a perfect answer. But the truth is, your answer can be very simple. "I work in an office." "I'm a student." "I'm a teacher." "I work in IT." Short answers are normal. You don't need to explain everything unless you want to. When I answer this question, I don't think, "How can I explain my job perfectly?" I just say something easy, something true. And then I wait. If the other person is interested, they ask more. If not, the conversation moves on. That's another important thing about introductions. They are like doors. You open the door a little. You don't open everything at once. You give the other person space to step in or to stay where they are. Sometimes people also say something like, "I'm learning English," or "I'm new here," or "I just moved." These are very natural sentences. And they actually help the conversation because they explain your situation without stress. If you say, "I'm learning English," people usually become more patient and more supportive. They might slow down. They might smile more. They might say, "Your English is good." And even if you don't believe them, it still feels nice. Confidence does not come from perfect English. It comes from accepting your level and speaking anyway. I've met many people who spoke very simple English, but they sounded confident because they were relaxed, And I've met people with very good English who sounded nervous because they were afraid of mistakes. When I was younger, I used to overthink introductions. I wanted to say the right thing. I wanted to sound smart. And because of that, I sometimes sounded unnatural. Now I know that simple is better. Sometimes, an introduction is just this. Hi, I'm Emily. Hi, I'm John. Nice to meet you. And then you talk about something else, about the weather, about the place you're in, about something small. And sometimes introductions happen many times with the same person. At work, for example, you might introduce yourself on the first day, but then you talk again the next day, and the next. And slowly, the introduction becomes a relationship. You don't need to do everything at once. If you're listening to this and thinking, I still feel nervous, that's okay. Nervousness doesn't mean you're bad at English. It means you care, and caring is a good thing. What helps is practicing simple introductions in your head. Not full scripts, just small pieces. Hi, I work as... These are building blocks. You can use them in many situations. And remember, native speakers don't expect perfection. They expect communication, a smile, a normal human interaction. As we keep going, I'll talk more about confidence, about body language, about what to do when you forget words, and how to keep the conversation going naturally after you introduce yourself, without pressure and without forcing anything. When you introduce yourself, confidence is not only about words, it's also about how you feel inside. Many learners think confidence comes after they learn more English, but in reality, confidence grows while you speak, not before. You don't wait to feel ready. You speak, and then readiness slowly appears. I remember meeting people who said very little about themselves, but they sounded confident because they were calm. They didn't rush. They didn't apologize for their English. They didn't say sorry before every sentence. They just spoke. One very common mistake learners make is saying too much too fast. They want to explain everything in one introduction. Where they are from, what they do, why they moved, what they like, what they don't like, all in one breath. And then they feel tired, and the listener feels a little overwhelmed. In real life, people don't do that. They share information slowly, piece by piece. And that's something you can practice. For example, imagine you're at a new job. Someone says, Hi, I'm Sarah. You say, Hi, I'm Alex. That's enough for the first moment. Later, maybe during a break, someone asks, So, where are you from? And you answer, I'm from Ukraine. Maybe they ask, Is this your first job here? And now you add more. This is how conversations naturally grow. Another common situation is meeting someone online, maybe in a language exchange or in a course. Many learners feel pressure to write a long introduction message, but a short, friendly message is usually better. Something like, Hi, my name is Maria, I'm from Spain, and I'm learning English to travel and work abroad. That's simple. That's natural. That's enough to start a conversation. Sometimes people worry about their accent. They think, what if they don't understand me? But accents are normal. Everyone has one, even native speakers. What matters is clarity, not perfection. If someone doesn't understand you, it's okay to repeat yourself or say the sentence in a simpler way. That's not failure. That's communication. For example, if you say, I work in logistics, and the other person looks confused, you can say, I work with deliveries and transport. Same idea, simpler words. This is something native speakers do all the time without thinking. Another thing that helps confidence is accepting silence. After you introduce yourself, there might be a short pause. That's normal. You don't need to fill every second with words. Silence doesn't mean something is wrong. I used to feel uncomfortable with silence. I thought I needed to talk all the time. But now I know that silence is part of conversation. It gives people time to think. Sometimes, after an introduction, the conversation doesn't continue. And that's okay too. Not every meeting turns into a long talk. Some introductions are just polite moments, and they still count. If you want to sound more confident, one simple thing you can do is slow down. Speak a little slower than you think you should. When people are nervous, they often speak too fast. Slowing down makes your English clear and makes you feel more in control. Another helpful thing is using simple, familiar phrases instead of trying to be creative. Confidence often comes from repetition, using phrases you know well. For example, I'm from, I work as, I'm studying, I live in. These phrases are powerful because they are easy and flexible. You can use them in many situations. And remember, mistakes are not something to hide. They are part of learning. Native speakers make mistakes too. They forget words. They change sentences in the middle. They correct themselves. If you say something wrong, you can simply continue. Most people won't even notice. Confidence also grows when you stop comparing yourself to others. Some people speak fast. Some people speak slowly. Some people know many words. Some people use very simple English. There is no single right way to sound. What matters is that people understand you and feel comfortable talking to you. Introducing yourself with confidence is not about being impressive. It's about being present, about being human, about allowing yourself to be a learner. And the more you practice small, simple introductions, the more natural they become. One day, you'll notice that you don't think about it anymore. You just say your name, you smile, and you talk. If you're listening to this and practicing shadowing, try repeating short parts. Try saying them out loud, not perfectly, just naturally. And if this podcast helps you feel a little more confident, a little more relaxed with English, then you're exactly where you need to be. If you enjoy learning English this way, through calm conversation, real-life examples, and natural speech, don't forget to subscribe to Daily English Talk. New episodes are always waiting for you to help you learn English step by step, without stress and without pressure. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.